Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Before I start, may I ask everyone to switch off their mobile phones, please? Ooh, a lot. Thank you. Honored guests, colleagues, and most importantly, my dear students, the new ones especially. Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to the official opening of the academic year and Alumni Day 2015 of UNESCO-IHE's Institute for Water Education. If you were not certain of your goals yet, why you came here, this magnificent video must have given you a good impression of what your goals might be. Since last Sunday, most of you, our new students, have arrived in the Netherlands and were guided to this beloved institute. You brought with you a rush of excitement and enthusiasm, which is felt everywhere in the institute. We surely hope you feel welcomed and that you have started to build both your professional and your social networks. This very day is the start of a special experience in your lives, and you share it with your fellow students from all over the world. Now from 52 countries, and more to come. Like I said upon arrival, we have the whole world underneath one rooftop. Isn't that fantastic? For now we have prepared a diverse program to welcome and inspire you, so that you will do well, that you will enjoy your time here, and get the best out of the coming 18 months. So I happily introduce you to the UNESCO-IHE family. As of today, you have become part of it. Welcome. Right now I would like to introduce the next speaker, which is a great honor to me, because this will be his last official speech in his current position. He has taken up a new challenge in Perugia, so I would like to thank Professor Stefan Uhlenbroek for all his dedication for all these years for the Institute. Congratulate you, and I would now like to invite you to the stage to address your words of welcome to the students.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Mr. Mayor, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of the Dutch government, members of the Governing Board of UNESCO-IHE and the IHE Delft Foundation Board, professors, fellows, students, participants, a special welcome also to the new participants who just start today, the students of the year 2015-2017, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor for me standing here today and welcome everybody here at UNESCO-IHE in the beautiful city of Delft. If you think this was a cold day today, you will experience much other temperatures very soon. Again, a very special welcome to the participants of the new batch of students. I heard in total we have 234 students who will stay here for 1.5 years or longer. 129 are in the Delft, so-called Delft-based program, and 105 in joint programs. They were partly studying in Delft, partly also with different partner universities in Europe and worldwide. When I saw this movie the first time, I was quite impressed. I found it interesting. You see so many horror movies about the water problems, but this was a very optimistic one. It was saying that by 2050, humanity will have achieved a water-secure world. A world where everybody has access to enough water of sufficient quality. A water where we will be able to manage in a sustainable way. Water for the agriculture, for the cities, for the rural areas, water for energy. We have water pollution and waterborne diseases under control. Well, all water-related disasters, meaning floods and droughts, for instance, are under control, or under control as much as humans can actually control a natural phenomena. One should. Thus, we will live in a water-secure world in which well-being for everyone, really everyone, all members of society, is possible, and sustainable development is possible as well. I found one of the most powerful statements, maybe it was too much because it was pretty fast, but one of the most powerful statements I found that norms will have changed because of educational interventions. And maybe this will lead to a change, or that has to lead to a change of attitude toward water and environment and sustainability. But how can we reach this world? Well, you can read the World Water Development Report 2015. The basis of this movie is that report, which was published on the World Water Day in March, and that is published by this new secretariat in Perugia, where I will move in next month. You can read that report. And there's a 200 pages explanation what all needs to happen to get to this optimistic picture of the future. In a nutshell, I would argue it largely depends on you. On your knowledge, on the skills, and how you're going to make them effective. Key in that respect will also be the Sustainable Development Goals, and I'm looking forward to work with you also in the classroom next week when the week 1, chaired by Professor Irvine, will really focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals and how you can contribute to this sustainability of the planet. So it does not depend on politicians sitting in the capital of your country. It does not depend on workshops held at UN offices in New York or Geneva and all other places. It does not depend on the people working in the offices of the top level floors in the skyscrapers of the big banks or multinational companies in London, Frankfurt or Singapore. No, it depends on you and it depends on all of us. You have chosen to study at UNESCO-IHE. UNESCO-IHE, by the way, is the largest international graduate school in the world. I always like to say that, but I also have to admit there's only one international graduate school in the whole world. But it is a quite sizable one, with some 400 or 500 master students and some 150 PhD students, all studying water problems. What is UNESCO doing in water? UNESCO is one of the big United Nations organizations, and it's the one with the largest water program. First of all, I would like to mention the IHP, the International Hydrological Program, which has a secretariat in Paris. Then they have 18 different water chairs and different water institutes. One is also hosted here at UNESCO-IHE, the IGREC, the International Groundwater Resources Assessment Center. I'm not sure if Mr. Kukovic is sitting there. Yes, from IGREC. It's a partner, in-house partner here. They're studying the groundwater assessment. Furthermore, there's the World Water Assessment Program in Perugia, where I'm going to be the director from next month onwards. And I thank them already for producing this movie. And there's IHE. You wonder, IHE, what does it actually stand for? The original name is Institute of Hydraulic Engineering, and then it changed the meaning of the acronym over the last almost 60 years several times. But the previous rector, he was always very creative what IHE could actually mean. And I think before all of you came to Delft, maybe you thought it means International Holiday in Europe. However, after the first 2 blocks of education, you might feel IHE means impossible, homework, examination. And after you have graduated, it probably will mean to you international happiness for eternity. So UNESCO-IHE is the 3rd pillar of the water program of UNESCO. It's the only Category 1 institute, so it's an integral part of UNESCO. That is an education institute that deals with water globally. And I would like to remind you on water can well be a peace builder, and I would like to remind you, all of us, on the UNESCO preamble. And let me read this out. It says, "Since wars begin in the mind of man, it's in the mind of man that the defense of peace must be constructed." So to construct peace in the minds of man, what we need is knowledge. We need to generate new knowledge, and we need to share knowledge. So basically it's about education, it's about capacity development, and this is absolutely key for the future of the world. The vision of this institute states that UNESCO-IHE is envisioning a world in which people manage their water and environmental resources in a sustainable manner, and in which all sectors of society, including the poor, can enjoy the benefits of the basic services related to water. To do this, this institute is carrying out education, research and capacity building programs worldwide. UNESCO-IHE has a quite incredible network. In total, there are more than 15,000 alumni who studied here. We will award one very special alumna today, later in the program, with a special award. They are coming from more than 160 countries worldwide, and many of them, they hold very senior positions. A number of them are ministers or CEO of companies or leaders of civil society organizations, etc., etc. So So I'm currently speaking very likely to future ministers of water, to future leaders of CEOs and other important leaders of our society. But before I want you to introduce yourself to your neighbors, I would like to introduce a few of my colleagues who will help you in the next 18 months to become these future water leaders. First of all, I would like to introduce the new rector ad interim who will follow me later in November, Dr. Fritz Holzwart. Maybe Dr. Holzwart can briefly stand up. I skipped the 20 pages CV this gentleman has, but I will just mention the name. Next one, the three heads of the academic department. Unfortunately, Charlotte de Frature, she is traveling. She's in, I think it's Sri Lanka at the moment, but till just last month, Professor Arthur Meinert was chairing this department. Maybe Arthur, briefly, we can also introduce you. Next one is Professor Damir Bradjanovic. Damir, he's the professor of the Environmental Engineering and Water Technology Department. And Professor van der Zaag, the Professor of Water Systems and Governance, unfortunately is also on a mission. There are many other professors, all equally important. If I introduce all of them, then I get stressed with the lady who told me, Stefan, you have to do it in 10 minutes. But I would like to introduce a few more of the key colleagues who really make sure that this will be a most effective and enjoyable time for you. Let me start with the Student Affairs Department, which is managed by Arno Heinz. Arno standing there, well, up there. The department of Arno was organizing everything they have seen so far, the boat trip and the registration and everything. The Education Bureau is managed by Erwin Plucher. I've not seen Mr. Plucher here today. The IT group, the computer group, I hope you all received already your laptops that will accompany you in the coming 18 months, day and night, literally night. Mr. Seton is also not in, but the communication officer, manager of the communication and marketing office, Ms. Ruth Weber. I see Ruth up there. I think I introduced a couple of key persons now, and a big thank you to everybody else who contributed to this, the fellowship officers, the back office, the receptionists, the central services colleagues, communication, marketing, and the IT group, etc., etc. Good, colleagues, before we move on with the next item, I would like to continue a tradition that we started here some years ago. I would like now everybody in the room to introduce him or herself to his or her neighbor. Mention your name, the country of origin, maybe the study program you're in, and if you want, what makes you special. And mind you, you might introduce yourself to the upcoming Minister of Water Resources of Nigeria, the new CEO of Veolia Water, or a civil society leader related to maybe hydropower, sustainable hydropower generation. So please, just introduce you for 1 minute to the person sitting to the left or to the right. Before in front of you, these are the new water movers and shakers. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We can continue the informal part later at the reception. Ladies and gentlemen, it might have felt a little bit awkward to you to introduce yourself to a person you considered as a stranger. Maybe you just by accident are sitting next to him. You very likely have met somebody who comes from a different country, from a different background, from a different ethnic group or religious belief. But very soon, this will feel very normal to you. You will interact in a truly international environment. You will work together in teams, in interdisciplinary teams, in multicultural teams. You will perform together in a team in this impossible homework and assignments that you will experience. You will experience to respect and enjoy each other and appreciate the background from your colleagues and the knowledge they have. In your endeavor to become truly a global citizen with understanding and respect. Thank you very much for this. And it's now my pleasure to invite and to announce the opening speaker of today, Professor Leonard Olsen. Professor Leonard Olsen is a geographer and social anthropologist, and he's now a professor for physical geography. And he was always between social science and physical science. So we discussed over lunch what actually means an exact science, as the Dutch like to call it, and what is a non-exact science actually. Professor Olsen is the founding director of Luxus, that's the Lund University Center for Sustainability Studies. He might explain further in his talk what Luxus actually stands for, but it's an interfaculty center and research that stands for Interdisciplinary Research in Education and Sustainability Sciences. In his research, Professor Olsen is interested in particular in the human-nature interactions in the context of land degradation, water, climate change, and food security in Africa, as well as globally. Professor Olsen held quite a number of senior positions in Australia, the US, Hong Kong, and he participated in several international assignments, including he's a lead author of the IPCC report, of the UNEP Geo Assessment reports, and he's also a coordinating lead author of the 5th assessment report of the IPCC in the working group on impacts on livelihoods and poverty. I met Professor Olsen recently at the Stockholm Water Week the first time. It was this year in August, and he gave a very interesting presentation on the topic of migration and the possible reasons for migration, such as climate change and water stress. I in particular enjoyed the way he demonstrated how important it is to think very critically about the reasons for migration. And it's not that easy or straightforward the way we read or sometimes see it in some newspapers or on the TV. The world is complex and the reasons are diverse. Very often, easy and cheap reasons or explanations might prove to be very costly in the end. Costly in monetary terms, but even more so for the people and their personal lives. Migration into Europe and the associated tragedies for the people, including the families with young children and elderly people, has certainly been one of the topics that dominated the news over the past month here in Europe. Thus I'm looking forward to listen to Professor Olsen and to learn more about the risks and opportunities that are associated with migration, water stress and climate change. Professor Olsen, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Dear all, and thank you, Stefan, for a fantastic introduction. I wondered who you're talking about. To me, water is a deeply political issue. And the reason why it's political is very simple. It's three things. It's essential. We can't live without water. It's limited. And it's becoming even more limited. These three factors makes it a deeply political issue. And when I say political, I don't mean political in the sense of Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. I need political in the sense that it is subject to conflicting values and interests in the world. That's why I see it as a political issue. I think there is a missing slide here. Yeah, okay. I'll go on with Obama. If we look at the scientific discussion about how many migrants, how many climate migrants are there in the world, we can find a number of what I call institutional facts. One institutional fact comes from the International Organization on Migration. They say by 2050 there will be 200 million climate-induced migrants in the world. If you take another institution, one of the big charity organizations, Christian Aid. They say by 2050 there will be 1 billion climate-induced migrants in the world. I call these institutional facts because they are facts in the absence of scientifically clear figures and knowledge. An institution dealing with something like climate-induced migration, they have to pick a fact to justify their existence, to use for planning their activities and so on. And of course they pick, in the absence of scientific fact, they pick something that fits their activities. Not too big, not too small. If we look at the scientific facts about how many climate-induced migrants will there be by 2050, science will say, that's an impossible question. It's probably the wrong question to answer. There is no way we can give a scientific answer to that question. I think this is really important to be able to, to recognize that whatever facts and figures we see, we have to look behind them to see what is behind them. Is there some kind of scientific process behind it, or is it something that has been picked to justify somebody's purpose? So there is, I try to convince you, there is no scientific agreement that climate change will automatically lead to mass migration. That doesn't mean that climate change is not a problem. It's a serious, horrible problem. But that link between climate change equals mass migration is very poorly understood. But nevertheless, when Obama got his Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, some years ago, he clearly said mass displacement, climate change will result in famine, mass displacement that will fuel more conflict and so forth. And this is a very, very political statement. What he does is actually he is inviting certain actors to work on climate change. Security, military, weapons. That's sort of what I feel is the danger when there is a lack of scientific understanding and we have other actors, for political reasons, they are picking their figures and for advancing particular purposes. Okay. So I will have 4 main points. The discourse of climate-induced migration. And, okay, here they are. Here is my slide, the one I was looking for. Institutional fact between 200 and 1 billion. But science estimates are methodologically unsound even. So this is what a scientist would say. Migration, that's very, very complex. The decision to move, to leave your livelihood, to move somewhere else into deep insecurity and uncertainty is a very profound decision that is not taken because it happens to be dry or wet. Particularly. It's something that has been discussed and thought about for a long time. But maybe, of course, if there is a severe drought, that might be the ultimate, the final push that makes people to take a decision. But that doesn't mean that it is a climate-induced migration. So I think that it is dangerous to simplify something that is so complex to say that it's about climate-induced or environmental-induced migration. So let's look into the future a little bit. Climate change impacts on water, because water is a political issue, it is a security issue in many people's eyes or ears. Take a look at the Californian drought. You probably all know that California is currently into their 4th year of a severe drought. Is this drought caused by climate change or not? In the last year or so, there has been an intense debate in the US about this. And the typical scientific approach is to take your expertise, you happen to be a rainfall expert, and then you look at the rainfall and say, no, the Californian drought is not the drought. It is not the largest or the most severe drought from a rainfall point of view since 1895. And the hydrologist might look at the flow of groundwater or surface water and say, no, it's not the lowest flow we've had. So if you put these two together, you may get a more balanced view on it. And there was a very recent paper that I liked a lot a few weeks ago, simply saying, don't blame it on the rain. And so this is a graph where the scientists were trying to find something I can point with. I have it here. As an experienced lecturer, you have to have these ones. So look at this. This is 2014 and plotted along the axis of precipitation anomalies and temperature anomalies, and is clearly an outlier and anomaly. I think the correct answer to this question is the drought in California caused by climate change or not. Climate change has contributed significantly to make this drought the worst that ever experienced. But whether it was caused by climate change, it might be irrelevant. There is one, when working in IPCC, you confront many scientists. There is one particular field which is extremely important these days about climate change. That's called the science of attribution. Detection and attribution of change. Can you attribute a change to a particular cause? The background comes in epidemiology. Epidemiologists have for generations, for centuries, they have been studying, can you attribute a particular disease to a cause? Can you attribute lung cancer to smoking, for example? And they have a good theory about how to do this. But now, when attribution science comes into climate change, there is no tradition, there is no theoretical underpinning. So the scientists are driven, what I would call, by something called, I call it, statistical fetishism. If you can't prove it with statistical significance, it doesn't exist. So when talking to the epidemiologist who was looking at climate change relationship to health, they will laugh and said, with this kind of approach, I don't think we could make the attribution of smoking and lung cancer. Because theory is really important. So if there is a good theoretical reason why we should have more droughts or floods in particular areas, then of course the statistical significance can perhaps be weaker. And if we look at the theories represented by this map showing the changes of dryness in the world by sort of towards the end of this century, we see that the current drought in California fits very, very nicely with the theoretical understanding of what the climate might be at that time. And that makes it much, much more compelling to say that, yes, the drought in California is part of climate change, maybe not caused by. We also see the Mediterranean basin is one of the hotspots where we will have severe problems with water. Southern Africa, Eastern Brazil, and so forth. Hurricanes, of course, this will have major impacts on people's livelihoods in these areas. But whether they will migrate or not, that's another question. That's a very complex question, even more complex than the climate. So hurricanes and floods is something else that will change very dramatically. I will make this, talk about this by an example. The tropical cyclone Nargis that hit Burma in 2008. The red area shows areas that suffered from the storm surge, and the blue, it was the area that was affected by floods from rain. I mean, that's the mechanism of a hurricane. Waves from the ocean, increasing waters from land, from the rivers. And here comes also how we estimate things, the social significance of this. This tropical cyclone Nargis was estimated to cost about $10 billion in damage. 140,000 people lost their lives. 250,000 were forced into refugee camps for many, many years. And the cost was $10 billion. We can compare it with Superstorm Sandy that hit New York and New Jersey some years ago. 81 people lost their lives. About 1.5 million people were without electricity for 3 days, and the cost of damage of that was $65 billion. So 6.5 more important in economic terms than August. Without going into the details of this, I just want to say that this comparison shows something about the political dimension of choosing a particular way of studying damage. If we use money, we usually pay much more attention to rich people than to poor people, which I think is an injustice. So, in terms of migration then, what we can think about in the future, here we are looking at from baseline 2000, where we are roughly now. We are sort of halfway or between, so 2000 and 2030. And it shows the number of people in urban areas that will be subject to floods. Based upon modeling, the best knowledge we have, of course, these are predictions, they are not sort of actual values. And we can see that there will be a significant increase in terms of, so here we have 20, which is in Eastern Asia, about 20 million people today, or 2000, were living in really flood-prone areas, urban areas. By 2060, if we lose control over climate change, it will be 70. So, of course, these people, they have to change their livelihoods significantly. But where to? The next main impact of climate change is, I think, heat waves. Something that we have not really paid much attention to, but is the most predictable impact of climate change according to the IPCC. It is something where IPCC is using the strongest word. It says virtually certain that heat waves will increase significantly by 2050. And we talk about a doubling, a tripling of number of heat waves. I won't talk so much about this book, but if you're interested, read it. It's exciting and scary. So, climate change will mean changes to us, to livelihoods around the world. And in the absence of really good scientific analysis, there's always a risk that others will take the initiative trying to understand the problem. And I'm talking here about something called securitization. In political science, securitization means that when an issue becomes the subject to military thinking, security, that is a way to advance the issue to the highest political level. And the most powerful political actors we have in the world, they are, unfortunately, the military forces. They are beyond democracy. We like to think, at least, that economics will follow, be under democracy. But military issues are for sure above democracy. And we will see something. I mean, we have seen books, climate wars, by a pseudo-scientific author, talking about the horrible future we have with mass migration and wars and you name it. While the science said, we have no idea really of the link between climate change and armed conflicts, because we have a lack of data and the complexity. We need to do much more science to understand the links, what they really are. But some people have already jumped on that conclusion. Here I show a map from what's called the US AFRICOM. It's the US command responsible for Africa. It's based in Germany. It was so controversial that they didn't find a place in Africa to host this office, so it's hosted in Germany. And I think here is important. How we understand a problem determines how we act upon it. And if we understand a problem like this, I mean, look at it. Across the continent, poor governance, exploding population, depletion of fishing grounds, maritime security, stress on water resources, oil theft, corruption, instability, fragility. I mean, with this kind of understanding, of course, we may jump to the conclusion, we better get our troops in. That's the only way to solve this problem. And this is sort of perhaps a bit of an exaggeration how securitization of environmental issues go. But I think hopefully it's an exaggeration, Bruno. So, what should we do instead? So I would like to leave you on a positive note. Because I think there are some really, really interesting and fascinating developments in parts of Africa where most of my research is from, where scientists with skills in ecology, hydrology, technology, various technologies, and where they have combined that with a profound understanding of the social setting. That can have profound effect, and we can have positive development. So, and I will end with a map on the community-led total sanitation process, which I call an epiphany-based social change that is spreading from country to country. And I'll just end with saying something about Madagascar. In Madagascar, a small organization with a minimum input of money have turned 1 billion people ODF. What is ODF? How many knows what ODF is? Open defecation free. You have a proper latrine. 1 million people have become ODF in 4 years without any investment of hardware or money, but just through social mobilization, through intelligent scientific leaders. So that's my hope. I will leave you on this, hopefully a bit positive note. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Olsen. Wow, that was inspiring, huh? I see a lot of nodding heads. Excellent. So I might even say how you understand your stay here for these coming 18 months, to follow the words of Professor Olsen, will determine how you will act once you are finished here in the future. Wow. As becoming future ministers. But not just yet. You have some time to get used to the idea. Alright, so now let's continue with something I am very proud of. I would like to ask your attention for a beautiful performance. It is of an elegance and gracefulness that you would normally expect from professional dancers, I might say. So please welcome these ladies from Thailand. Miss Michaya, who recently finished her MSc studies, and now she continued to stay with us for an advanced class. And Miss Sitirin, who is on the verge of starting her thesis research for studies in water management. Enjoy this beautiful dance. So beautiful. All right, and then we're up for the next speaker. I would like to now introduce you to the chair of our Student Association Board, and the new students will learn more about the Student Association Board tomorrow. So for now, Mr. Frederick Mageni will give you a motivational speech. The floor is all yours, Frederick.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I don't think whether I do justice to this podium, just like the dancers anyway. Let me try. Dear Vice Rector and Officer in charge of the UNESCO-IHE, professors, staff members, fellow participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Professor Stefan has just mentioned, let me also borrow the words of the former rector of the UNESCO-IHE. That is, we say in Africa, all protocols are observed. A very good evening to you all. Allow me, at the outset, on behalf of the Student Association Board and all the senior participants, to start by extending warmest hand of welcome to the new participant for the academic year 2015-2017. On the same scale, let me also extend warmest congratulations to all of you for your admission at UNESCO-IHE. Your admission as a participant to this esteemed Global Water Education Institute is a befitting tribute to personal and professional qualities that you have exhibited over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, the majority of us, when admitted at UNESCO-IHE, we are normally very ambitious of becoming high and competent water professionals in our countries back home. Is this all? The answer is absolutely no. There is more than learning about water treatment technologies, hydrology, or water management at UNESCO-IHE. Let me just cite a very simple example, which I believe you have encountered for the past 4 to 5 days since your arrival. You must have wondered to come across with such a diverse community of senior participants, Africans, Asians, Americans, and Europeans, who seem to know a lot about your home countries and even trying to speak your languages while they have never been in your home countries. I imagine you must have been asking yourself and even asking them of how come they seem to know all those about your home countries despite of never setting their foot there. This evening, I'll give you the answer. And the answer is yes. The majority of them, including myself, they have never been in your home countries. But, I insist, but, they have been at UNESCO-IHE. I believe you can't prove me wrong by saying that since spending 1.5 years here at UNESCO-IHE is more than becoming water professionals, as the Professor Stefan just mentioned, but the global citizen. With those remarks, it's my expectation that by studying here, most of you will not only think within the normal line of thinking, mainly focusing on your home countries, but in a broad global perspective. This is one of the greatest chances you'll ever get for your personal growth. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may share my personal experience with you at UNESCO-IHE, which I believe it reflects the experience of most of my fellow senior participants. When I first arrived here, I would never have predicted that I would find myself in such a diverse community with vast, rich culture and differences. I personally had my own stereotypes. A very good example was when I heard that someone is from Latin America. I saw poverty, drugs, gorillas, and the mafia. When I thought about Asia, I thought about Indonesia's very wet seasons and devastating winds, and at some point, terrorism. Some friends of mine told me when they thought about Africa, they saw war, hunger, poverty, diseases, and recently, xenophobia and pirates. I presume those were a few of the stereotypes most of us have in mind before being exposed to this good UNESCO-IHE family. Now let me tell you something. That's all wrong. Sticking to those narrowing description was and is a missing out of far-fetched points. Asia, the Earth's largest, most populous continent and beauty, Indonesia, with very rich culture and more than 17,000 islands from the Sumatra to Jayapura. And the Indonesians are calm, humble, and devoted people. Their spirit of hard working is a clear testimony in the move Las Capelang, or as translated in English, the Rainbow Troops. And the SAB move team is going to show it earlier next week. Please don't miss it. Afghans and Pakistan, open-minded people, sure, not terrorists. And their language is almost the same. The coolest people of Nepal I have come across with. They are so respectful toward each other and to everyone. Latin Americans are brilliant and strong. And by the way, their cooking is amongst of the best recipe I have ever tasted. I've not forgotten about the Uruguayans with the polenta. And back to my roots in Africa. Africa is a continent, not a country. The culture and language in Africa are so diverse, different and rich. And speaking in terms of the gross domestic product, the GDP, Seychelles is ranked as the richest country in Africa, while South Africa follows the fifth after Mauritius, Botswana, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea. Tanzania, my home country, completes the list of top 10 economies in Africa. Having an opportune time to have discussion with fellow participants from different routes will help you learn other interesting facts like historic realities about countries that have never been colonized, such as Liberia, and Ethiopia, which is the headquarters of the African Union, was just temporarily occupied by the Italy during the Second World War. The same goes for Thailand, which we have just seen in the performance here, the dancing, where its people usually phrase the land of freedom to refer to it. There is also Nepal, Iran, Japan, just to mention a few. There is a lot of interesting facts to learn from each other, which are not found only in books. Dear fellow new participants, as I pointed earlier, that your stay here at UNESCO-IHE will be one of the greatest experiences in life. You must have observed since your arrival, the staff are very supportive in whatever issue you might face, from the vice rector, lecturers, and others. They are all ready to give you the helping hand. The moment when you will get back in your home country, you will have a broader thinking mind. As water professional, we always deal with the day-to-day basic human needs with different people of different field of expertise. Your opinion will be more valuable as you will have this ability to think beyond the normal line of thinking and in a wide range of point of view, to be able to analyze different perspectives and deal with people of different culture and background from all corners of the world. Just have a look on each side of you. The person seated next to you, whom you have just introduced yourself earlier, is your family for the coming 18 months. Yes, we are different, but none of us is incapable. There are no blacks, there are no whites, there are no yellow or blue at UNESCO-IHE. We are all alike. You know very well that there can be opportunities from anywhere in the world. And you know that in life, they say at some point, what is important the most is not what you know, but who you know. However, this saying highlights the importance of having a strong and various network, and that is part of what we built during our stay here. Connecting with brilliant minds coming from all over the world. Try to study the group approach. We all have different experiences, and sharing our different points of view is the best way of getting the theory. And of course, if you are all smart sometimes, it can get a little bit complicated as everyone is stuck on their own ideas because they think it is the best. But always ask yourself, what if other person is right? Think about it, analyze it, and then discuss about it deeply. If you fail once, don't panic. Work harder instead. Your unfortunate experience does not have to be your final destination. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to finish my speech and by a quote from Richard Gere, an American actor and activist, and I quote, "I was raised to show respect. I was taught to knock before I open a door. Say hello when I enter a room. Say please and thank you, and to have respect for my elders. I would let another person have my seat if they need it. Say yes sir and no sir." Unfortunately there is no madam, no. Yes. "And help others when they need me to, not to stand on the sideline and watch. Hold the door for a person behind me. Say excuse me when it's needed, and to love people for who they are, not for what I can get from them. And most importantly, I was raised to treat people exactly how I would like to be treated by others. It's called respect." End of quote. Dear fellow new participants, always be respectful, humble, and positive. Respect everyone's culture and belief. I wish you all the very best to stay for your study here at UNESCO-IHE, in Delft, and in the Kingdom of the Netherlands in general. May God bless you all. Asanteni sana. Terima kasih. Amasegararo. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie, for sharing your experiences. So to the new students, get ready to get some new perspectives. You might be right, but like Freddie said, the other might be just as right as you are. As I mentioned before, today we also celebrate Alumni Day through the awarding of the Alumni Award 2015. May I now invite Ms. Maria Laura Sorrentino, our Alumni Officer and my colleague at the Social Culture Office, to the stage today as an Alumni Officer. Maria Laura.
Gracias. Okay. Distinguished guests, alumni, students, and colleagues. Well, I would like to congratulate all new students on the commencement of their studies at UNESCO-IHE. Today we also celebrate the Alumni Day because many professionals, our alumni, also started their studies at UNESCO-IHE one day in October, like you. UNESCO-IHE has around 15,000 alumni worldwide, and they form the biggest water professional network in the world. They are our best ambassadors we have, and we are very proud of all of them. In this ceremony, we have the pleasure of awarding one of our exceptional alumni with the third UNESCO-IHE award. The award is given annually to an alumnus or an alumna who has had an illustrious career and has been a role model for other water professionals. So I would like to invite to the podium Professor Stefan Uhlenbruck to announce the winner of the UNESCO-IHE Alumni Award 2015.
Perfect. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to introduce the Grande Dame of Hydraulic Engineering of Argentina to you. Here in the second row we have Miss Iris Frida Josh. Professor Josh has been the National Director of Hydraulic Projects and Public Works for the Undersecretary of Water Resources in Argentina since 1999. Under her administration, 371 hydraulic projects, hydraulic projects sometimes takes many, many years, sometimes decades. 371 hydraulic projects were completed and implemented in Argentina. Professor Josh is also a professor at fluvial hydraulics at the La Plata University, the National University in Argentina, at the Faculty of Engineering in the Hydraulics Department, where several generations of Argentinian water professionals received their training. Actually, all of her staff, she told me yesterday, were actually trained by herself. So she knows exactly how good they are. Professor Josh, she studied here at UNESCO-IHE in, be careful, 1967 and 68, obtaining her postgraduate diploma in hydraulic engineering with a scholarship by the Dutch government. She came here to study together with her husband, engineer Simon Kosak. I've been told by students many come alone and they return with a partner, but at that time she came here with her husband to study hydraulic engineering, and he became a sanitary engineer. It was the first couple studying here at UNESCO-IHE. These were the good old days. People were married before they came, and studying took place at the Oude Delft 95. Some of our offices are there nowadays, and her professors were, among others, Professor Mostermann and Professor Abbott. She returned then in '68 to Argentina, and she used her knowledge to acquire that she acquired in the course throughout her professional life. She supervised many hydraulic projects, did a lot of research. Particularly, she was interested in sediment transport in uncoated channels. As a hydraulic engineer, she participated also in many important international programs, and she was also very concerned with sustainable water planning and the environmental analysis of the projects. At the university, she has been lecturing and she conveyed the concept of fluvial morphology based on sediment behavior. She founded a sediment transport laboratory at the National University in La Plata, and particularly for the analysis of cohesive sediment and related water and sediment dynamics. Her hydraulic works include flood control in flatland, or as well as in steep slope lands, urban drains, and erosion and sediment control works. Additionally, she worked on irrigation works and multi-purpose dams in Argentina and in other places in Latin America. The projects secured water security, maybe not as tough security as Professor Olsen explaining us before, and safety to millions of people living in Argentina and neighboring countries, that enabled an economic development in harmony with nature in many areas in Argentina and neighboring countries. Professor Josh is one of the founding alumni, also of the Netherlands Alumni Association in Argentina. Though you might think she really deserved her retirement, but from very secret sources sitting just next to her, her daughter, I got some further insights, and in her age of 74, she's still the director of the hydraulics work department at the ministry. She continues to work. She's usually in the morning one of the first to come, and in the evening one of the last to leave in the age of 74, and she needs about 1 hour to commute to her workplace. She's leading there, and she said in her own words, I'm serving a team of 20 plus engineers, architects, technicians and administrative staff, and they are developing these projects to improve the water management in her country. We are very proud that Professor Josh is among our alumni. She has contributed enormously to the improvement of water management in her country. She has been an outstanding teacher and a role model to her students, many of whom came later also to UNESCO-IHE. They were inspired by her and continued their professional development. Ladies and gentlemen, I called Professor Josh the Grande Dame of hydraulic engineering of Argentina. But after reviewing her CV and seeing the regional and international recognition of her work, I actually prefer to call her the Grande Dame of hydraulic engineering of at least Latin America, and certainly one of the Grande Dames also of hydraulic engineering of the whole world. Professor Josh, thank you very much.
Don't be afraid, we have studied very much this process, so relax. Y tú Iris también, relax. Don't relax, I fall down. Pay attention. She is down here, we come here.
Joyce, congratulations.
Thank you very much. So first I give you the
Pictures. Oh yeah. So.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, there was a reflection, yeah. We will now invite Professor Josh to present a short acceptance speech.
Thank you.
This is mine.
What is yours? No, this is yours? Yes. ¿Está bien? Sí, sí, sí. Professor Ingebrook, distinguished authorities, professors, students, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank very much UNESCO and the Institute of Hydraulic Engineering. You will permit me to say in that way, because it was the way we used to know the Institute, and the UNESCO and the Institute of Hydraulic Engineering for the honor of selecting me to receive this Alumni Award 2015. At the same time, I want to thank the Institute for the academic level of professors responsible of the teaching, because the technical and up-to-date training I received was essential to the development of my professional life. I would like to state that there is no better reward for me than this chance to come back to visit the beautiful and beloved country, and particularly here at Delft, the Oude Delft building that was where I have most important moments of my student's life. Especially I want to thank José María Regueira, ex-student of mine, and who also graduated him from the Institute, who promoted my nomination for this award. And Maria Laura Sorrentino for her warm welcome and for taking care of every detail of my life here to make my stay here enjoyable. Finally, I wish taking in account of my own experience that in the near future more Argentine professionals may have the opportunity to improve their academic and technical training here in Delft, in UNESCO-IHE UNESCO-IHE Institute of Water Education. Thank you very much.
What do you do?
It's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this session comes to an end. It was last time for me officially standing here. Well, I'm standing here next morning lecturing again, but as an official task, I would like to thank everybody who contributed to this exceptional event. Special thanks to this impressive lady, Professor Josh. We all can learn a lot from you, from your dedication and from your passion for your academic field. Thank you. I invite everybody to a reception just downstairs in the restaurant, and I officially declare the academic year 2015-16 open.
Please rise for the invitation, Professor.